Welcome to Eating Plebian, and today we're going to give a little more in-depth how-to look at making your first pizzas. Pizzas can be intimidating because if you go to a pizzeria where they allow you to see the back of the kitchen, you may see these guys back there, or girls, and they're throwing around the pies, and they're making these big things and using their really big ovens and the peels in order to pull the things in and out. It can be intimidating, but there's nothing that a little bit of practice won't handle. But there's also a couple of tips that you, as someone who's trying to start making pizzas for the first time in your home, that'll make things go a little bit better. Now, I've got a couple of, I'm not going to say that they're cheats. They're by no means cheats. It's more stylistic than anything else. But when you're making a pizza and you want to do it in your home, the home commercial, not commercial, but your home oven is not actually designed to achieve the sort of heat that an actual pizza oven is designed to make. Now, there are people that have like I believe they're called Onis or something, or they've got that nice big brick oven out in the back. I don't have any of those, but I've never had a problem. I started throwing pizzas more than 30 years ago when I was in college, and I've never really kind of lost out on that. I've been making them periodically ever since, and I'm kind of like a bicycle, you just don't forget. But having had that experience, I think I'm in a position to tell you after 30 years, I'll also try to make their own best pizza crust. That has been a long journey. The one that I'm going to be showing you today is actually also, oddly enough, the simplest. Now, the other thing that we're going to be doing is taking a look at these. They're called peels, P-E-L-S. And one of the things that a lot of people have a hard time dealing with is, okay, I make a pizza, I put it on my peel, and I'm trying to shake it off into the oven, and it's not coming right. Well, I've got a little bit of a suggestion for you that's also going to help out quite a bit. I have no problem using a peel, making sure that everything's dry and a little bit of flour on top of it, or if you choose to use cornmeal, that's up to you. Not my preference, but that's all right. It makes things a whole lot easier, but we can assist with both of these problems at once, with the oven not heating up to the temperatures needed, and also trying to deal with the peel and not having that experience as well. And that is called a pizza screen. This pizza screen is going to help us with both of these issues. Let's get started, however, and on making the actual pizza dough. This will come into play later, and I think you'll see how easy it is to actually have a recipe that just plain works, and also a method that you can pretty much guarantee success for your first time making pizzas. Our recipe today starts off with basically 4 ingredients. We need flour, we need salt, we need water, and we need yeast. Got all of those right here. And there's no oil, there's no spices, there's no butter, there's nothing in there. And yet, for whatever reason, it simply creates the best crust that I've found that works out here at home. So I need to start off with 500 grams of high protein flour. Now, this particular type is called 00 pizza flour, and it is milled correctly. But the thing that actually makes it work isn't the milling, it's the protein that is within this flour. You want to have at least 12, preferably closer to 13% protein in order for the glutens to really come together, and you can get that nice hybrid chewy and crunchy crust depending on how you cook it. Your all-purpose flour simply doesn't do that. So what we need to do is we're going to have to measure out 500 grams of flour. So I'm going to put my one bowl here, and I'm going to subtract it using the tare function. So we're now back to 0, even though the bowl was on it. And we're going to measure this out to 500 grams or something very, very close. $277, $284, $360, $417, 494, 495, 504. Okay. Oh, 505. Whatever. That's close enough. So I'm going to seal this back up. We will be using it later. I don't want it to tip over. I have a horrible habit of tipping things over, so I got to make sure that I seal them first. So I've got my 500 grams of flour. I need a teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to put that right in. I just happen to know how much a teaspoon is in the palm of my hand. I save a lot of money on tiny measuring spoons by doing that. Now, even though they're both powders, I'm still going to combine these. And the reason I'm doing that is that yeast is live. And when we put it into any sort of mixture, if there's a concentration of salt in there, that salt can actually kill the microbes. That is what yeast actually is. So we want to blend this in at least a little bit. I don't have to stir it wickedly or beat it like eggs or anything else. But I just don't want a hard concentration of that salt right at the top. So that is waiting for me. I'm going to put this into my mixer. And I'm going to be using it because I have a mixer. Why go through all the trouble of hand kneading it if you don't have to? But that's another thing to address. You do not need to have a big, expensive mixer like this. You can do it absolutely with your hands, and you absolutely can put down a little bit of flour on a nice, clean work surface, and you can knead it by hand. It's probably going to take you about 10 or 15 minutes, but you absolutely can do that. My hands are getting older these days, folks, so I'm going to be using this where I have it. All right, the next thing we need to do is I need to prepare the yeast and get the water going. In my sink here, I've got the water going fairly hot, and I'm waiting for it to actually come up to what this yeast recommends as being between 110 and 115 degrees. So I'm at 105 right about now, and it's climbing slowly. And as soon as we get to about 110, 112, 115, then I'm simply going to stop the water. I'm going to empty out this vessel to 300 milliliters, and at that time, I will have my water. About 100, actually about 100 right now. Actual water itself needs to be just a little hotter, so I'm going to knock the cold down. Sometimes this can take a minute. Knock the cold down a little bit more. Hundred and 8. And 110. I'm going to stop it pretty much right there. And I'm going to pour it out to my 300 milliliters. Is it? Or did I pour too much out? No, I'm fine. All right, let's get this going over there. So I've got my 110 degree water, and I'm opening up the package. This is fairly fresh yeast. You know that a lot of yeasts need to be either refrigerated and not be too old. Some don't need that. There's actually commercial ones. There's different yeasts available. And frankly, I haven't really found that much that matters. But, the store brand, rapid yeast or normal stuff, perfectly fine. So I'm just going to stir this in. I know this is a fresh batch also. If I was really worried about it, I'd put a little sugar in let it sit for a few minutes to see if it starts foaming. That's how you proof the yeast. But I'm just going to take it on faith this time around and toss it in. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to set this to low. One thing to note is that if you happen to have an environment that is either cool, cold, or also very dry, not very humid at all, then go ahead and increase your liquid to 325 milliliters. That will assist a little bit in terms of both the pliability and also how well the water reacts to the dough. So now that this is churning merrily away, we're going to do the time jump thing here, and we will be back in 10 minutes. Guess what? It's been 10 minutes, and the dough looks good. I'm going to move this over to the side just a little bit. Give me some working room. Drop the bowl down. I have that there. I'm going to take some of my pizza flour, and I'm going to use this as just a little bit of work surface. In the meantime, I've gotten 3 bowls. Here, another one over off to the side. And these are the vessels that we're going to use to assist us with the rising of the dough. So I've got some flour down there, and I'm going to pull this out. So this is what we're ended up with, and it feels kind of rubbery. That's very good, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to set this down, and I want to start off by portioning this. Now, I don't have any specific weight or mass requirements, but I'm going to just turn this into 3 pizzas. This will make about 3 14-inch thin crust pizzas. You could make 2 16 slightly thicker crusts, or if you wanted to make some massive job, then you obviously just use the whole thing, I guess. But I'm going to chop this into thirds, rough thirds anyway. And what I'm going to do is fashion this into a ball. And so what I'm doing is I am practicing something that was drilled into me a long time ago. So I take the ends of the roll and I turn them in on themselves, crush them in, turn the thing 90 degrees, do it again, turn them over 90 degrees, and you can see how the inside is starting to come out here just a little bit, and that's a good thing. And we keep turning this into a dough ball, and we are getting layers going on here. And this is just something that takes a little bit of practice. It's not something that your mixer can do for you, but I'm going to do this maybe 15, 20 times, I guess. And until I stop getting large separations in the dough ball. So I'm almost there. I think that'll do it. Almost. Yeah, I have one more. There we are. And now I'm going to squeeze right here at the base of that last joining, that fold in. And now I've got a ball. It's more or less sealed up at the bottom. And now I'm simply going to put it in to my bowl here. Put it down just a little bit. I have put non-stick spray in each of these. And after I finish doing these two and putting them into the bowl, what I'm going to do is take some saran wrap, cover these over, and I'm going to let these things just sit out right here on the counter for 2 hours to rise. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on with these, and I will catch you again in 2 hours. All right, 2 hours later, the dough balls have gotten significantly larger, as you can see, and we're going to use 2 of them, and the third one I'm going to punch down and put back into the fridge. My son wants to try his hand making his own later on. So anyways, let's go on to the toppings and things and get rolling. So let's clear up a couple of items first. And the way that that little doohickey, the pizza screen that I pulled out earlier, and I mentioned that this is going to solve both of your problems if you happen to be a first-time or at least novice pizza maker, and that is that the stoves do not get quite hot enough in terms of being able to cook a pizza at the right rate. Now, you can always leave it in longer, of course, but we've got things that concern us. The first thing is that with these lower temperatures, the crust tends to not get cooked soon enough, and the toppings tend to get overcooked by the time that that the dough has cooked up and gotten crispy. So one of the things that we can do is that we can take this screen over here and we can lay this, after we've shaped it, onto the screen, put it into the oven on top of our pizza stone. Yes, I do have a pizza stone in there. It's been heating up for the last half an hour at the highest setting that I can get on the oven. And we can pre-bake it for a couple of minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, pull it out, put our toppings back on, and then everything will work itself out in terms of the timing. The other thing is that, as I mentioned, a lot of people are going to have a little bit of problem using a peel. Normally, in a pizza restaurant, you would put your pizza dough on top of here. You put some flour on it first, so it's a little bit smoother, and then you can tease it off the end. And with a little bit of practice, it's fairly easy to do. But again, when you're starting off, that can be the end of a lot of pies right there, getting folded up or having stuff thrown off and burning things going on in your oven. It's just a real pain in the neck. So if we pre-bake our crust on this pizza screen for a couple of minutes, then it handles both of our issues, because you don't have to really do anything. You can just pick it up and set it in the oven. Not a problem. All right. Now, what you see me doing is doing the basic shape here. Now, I'm going around the outside, just inside of the crust, and I'm not really going to even touch the crust for the most part in terms of this pressing down shaping. But the one thing I'm really not doing is pressing down in the center. I'm leaving this proud. This will thin itself when we expand the periphery of the pizza, and it will do it to the extent that it needs to. So I'm simply going to keep going around a couple of times, pressing this down on a well-floured work surface. In this particular case, this is my countertop. I just made sure it was clean. I'm going to move this around just a little bit more so I can get some more flour there. And I'm just using my fingertips to extend the end off. All right. Now, the second thing I'm going to do after having done this is I'm simply going to use my fingers and stretch around the periphery one section at a time. So it gets a little larger, little larger, little larger. You get the idea. I'm not going to have you doing throwing stuff up in the air right at the moment. Now, even though my hands are covering it, I'm not pressing down in the middle. That is one of the problems that a lot of people have, that this gets too thin. You get a hole in it, and, well, it happens. Now, as it happens right now, I've got a little hole right there. I can pinch that shut. Not a problem. Little one right there, too. Wow, I am losing my touch. It's amazing. All right. And so now I've got to the point where I'm going to use my fingertips again and run through the periphery like passing a garden hose between my thumbs and my index fingers, or the knuckles at least of my index fingers. And we're just going to do this slowly until we get large enough. All right. We're right about there. I've still got to pitch that shut. And we've got about a 14-inch pizza there. So I'm going to take my pizza screen. I'm going to set it down, lay this out, reshape it slightly, make it nice and round. And now I'm simply going to put it in the oven on top of that pizza stone for 3 to 5 minutes. While that is in there, let me show you some of the pizza toppings we got. Oddly enough, I am not doing red sauce this time, which is usually my go-to. The girls, they wanted to have a margarita pizza. I wanted a Mediterranean. So the girls are going to end up getting some fresh mozzarella. We've got fresh basil leaves over there. I've got cherry tomatoes that I've got sliced up. The lots of garlic, because I'm going to be doing a garlic and olive oil base, I guess you want to call it. And if they would like, I've also got some Kalamata olives, and I've got some prosciutto, feta cheese. That's going to be those three are going to be mine for the Mediterranean pizza, and I think it's going to work out really, really well. Yes, that is a lot of garlic. That is a crippling, debilitating, possibly even life-threatening amount of garlic, but this is my house. Also, a little bit of herbs from the Italian seasonings over there. But I think this is going to be a grand pizza party, all things considered. All right, 4 minutes later, I'm opening up the door and I'm pulling out the pizza crust. And what I've got is bubbles just starting to form. That's hot. And you'll note that it's a little stiff. It's certainly not going to be a hard thing to get it off the peel now that I have it actually on here. And I've also got a little bit of flour, as once again I said I was going to do. So I'm going to dress this the way they want it. Put on some oil, just all over. My garlic. I think that will do nicely. I'm going to put some dashes of Italian seasoning on here. Just like that. Let's see. They wanted fresh mozzarella. So I cut some of this up a little bit ago. I'm going to lay it around. Maybe another piece or two here and there. Now we've got some tomatoes we were talking about. Those will go right there. Those are some really good tomatoes too. I kept popping them into my mouth. I know, not supposed to do that. Yes, but it's my kitchen and my tomatoes. There's that. And looky here. Aren't these some of the best looking basil leaves you've ever seen. Maybe another one right there. All right. And this is going to go back into the oven for the remainder of its cooking time. So set this down. I can literally just push this pizza off with my thumb onto the stone, and that stone is going to is going to help us get it nice and crispy. So, all right, I'm going to shape my other dough in order to make mine, and we got a few minutes to wait on this other pizza. Check back in just a minute. All right, and a few minutes later, look at what we have here. It's a beautiful golden brown, just right around the edges. It's crispy. The toppings are all melted in, but they're not overdone. So we have really a factored success right here for this first one. And now the other thing I'm going to do, I pre-started on the pizza screen, like I'd mentioned, the other one. So I'm going to lay that one there. And I'm going to do an olive oil and garlic just like the other one. Poke this down a little bit. Get down, get down. Totally normal. And now for the garlic. I'm probably not going to put, I was thinking I was going to put some salt on this, but with the feta cheese and the Kalamata olives, I don't think any additional salt is going to be necessary when I've got those on there already. Now that is going to lower your cholesterol right there. Italian seasoning again. I have the prosciutto. I'm just going to dot this around. I don't like using like flat pieces of prosciutto for the simple fact that you bite into them and sometimes they just really don't separate. You end up pulling all the pieces along with the bed of cheese off the piece of pizza, and that's no fun. You don't want to wear it. There we go. That's the prosciutto. I'm going to go after some of the Kalamata olives for this. Not too many. I'll save these. Yep. I wasn't planning on it, but yep, I'm throwing the basil on. And lastly, the feta cheese. I could do this in a slightly more controlled way, but you know, I really don't care. All right, and that one is ready to go in. Back onto the stone. Five minutes. And 6 or 7 minutes later, we've got the Mediterranean. And that is also nice and crispy. I can feel it in the crust. And this is going to be an absolute banger of a dinner. So once again, thank you for joining us here at Eating Plebian. We're going to be getting down to this in mere moments. But I want to thank you again for coming and for all of the views and comments and everything else that people have given me over the last couple of days. It's really heartening to see that. And anyways, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. It really helps me out in getting my content out there to teach people exactly how to cook for themselves. It seems to be something that's been missing or something for a while. So we're trying to turn that around so people aren't spending all of their hard-earned money on takeout and restaurant expenses. Thanks again. We'll see you later.